Welcome to a football show here, of course, live on the 440 Sports Network, live from the Cast Collective studio. He is Zach. I am Braden, hanging out here on a Monday afternoon. We were so enthralled and engrossed with our Titans depth chart that we just started the show a couple minutes too late today. So
we were just kind of sitting here chit-chatting, acting like no care in the world, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I think we're a little late.
Wait a second. There's a punter battle? There might be.
There might be.
More on that in a second, of course.
May have already been won.
All right. Okay. All right. Settle down. All right. Today on the show, we went through the offense, things that we're excited about, things we're concerned about with each section of the offense on Thursday's show. Go check that out, of course. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. We're going to do that on today's show on the defensive side. Right. So we got defensive linemen, we got outside linebackers, we got inside linebackers, we got corners and safeties, and maybe we'll even touch on some special teams. That's not a joke. We're going to talk about that. And Malik Willis, practicing on Sunday and Monday. Some improvements, we think, from Thursday, what we saw.
Really, even starting on Friday's practice, he had some good stuff.
That is absolutely true as well. Some offensive line conversation, because we can't ever have a show without some offensive line conversation, so we'll do that. And then, of course, a lot of talk about the official, unofficial depth chart that they have to put out because the NFL twists their arm and makes them put out a depth chart, even though we know full well that Mike Vrabel and John Robinson have no desire to put out a depth chart. So we'll do all of that.
There is some interesting takeaways. Like compared to last year when everybody only wanted to argue if Jeff Swain was actually starting tight end, which he obviously was. I don't even know why it was ever an argument, Buck. But that's where we're at.
So lots of fun stuff to do on the show today. We also are going to argue about fantasy football a little bit later on, but that's a little bit later on in the show today. I do want to say, of course, special thanks to all of the wonderful people that make this product go. The Kingston Group, buildkg.com is the website. If you have any problems or questions or ideas about what your house could be, if you want to do a renovation, buildkg.com is, of course, the website. That's the Kingston Group, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. And, of course, Weiss Liquors, right there on Gallatin, Main Street, over there in East Nashville, the closest one to the Titan Stadium. So even for preseason games, stock up on all your tailgate stuff, of course. And use this, just say 440. Just say 440 when you go in there. Get 10% off. That's tax-free booze. And more importantly, Uber Eats, search Weiss Liquors, and have the booze come right to your house in as quickly as 20 minutes. I'm not sure what else you need for your weekends.
Oh, I'm actually stopping off at Weiss Liquors today after the show.
If you diehard F words and football show fans would like to
I will wear a helmet and sunglasses. Nobody can find me.
If you would like to hound Zach Lyons, please swing by.
I'm just there to get some margaritas that are pre-mixed, and then I'm leaving.
God, that's so classy of you.
Yeah.
A pre-mixed margarita.
Hey, Skinny Girl margaritas is a staple in the household. Very good.
Is that you, the wife, or Huxley?
It's the wife, but I also drink it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So again, special thanks to all of our great sponsors. And again, if you want to host an event here at this beautiful studio, Cast Collective, make sure you check them out, the Cast Collective.
Every time we come in, there is some new technology happening behind the scenes. They're improving every time we're here.
Some might say they're the next evolution of the event space.
I like it. Like we are the next evolution of the
podcast,
audio, video.
Yeah,
they are the next evolution of the studio space.
Yes, exactly. All right. So if you want to get into the comments, of course, we'll take your questions, comments about all the things that we've seen at Titans practice.
It's actual football. So like we can give you actual answers to questions, not just opinions. It's more of this is what we've seen. This is what we saw on Thursday, for next Monday's show. So, when you're watching a game, write down all your questions, then come give them to us.
That is exactly what you should do. And turn on all your notifications, of course.
Turn them all on.
At F-Words Pod, at Broadway Sports Media, at Braden Gall, at 440 Sports, of course. I've got
all on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Turn them all on.
Boom, there you go. Donnie says, those do taste good. So apparently we have margarita takes.
It is
on the show.
They're very good.
Okay,
and they're locale. So like to me, they have a spicy one, a grapefruit one, and a regular one. I'd never do the grapefruit one, but the spicy one is perfect.
Free shouts, no free shouts. Is that what that's the thing? Free shout, no free shout. You got to say it that way.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, right.
I mean, I'm not
a Twitter bro.
Yeah, so. I'm not copying that place. Who cares? Who cares about a shout out? I like a product. You should know about the product. Go buy the product.
There you go. Depth chart for your Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Ravens game coming up on Thursday. So Thursday's show will have a more fully throated preview of that game, what to look for. A lot of it will focus on Malik Willis, I'm sure. So we'll talk about that today. But the depth chart is out. Again, the Titans do not want to do this. They would rather, bathe in sulfuric acid than put out a depth chart, but they are required to by the NFL, so we get to look at one. Zach,
if they could not put out a team at practice, I think they would do that. That's how much they hate revealing anything. They would rather practice inside like a gymnasium with Secret Service surrounding it, where nobody can get in, blacked out windows and everything. Despite
that being a far worse way to practice and develop your players.
Yes.
It's all about the media. So nothing, in my opinion, I know you've got a lot of stuff here. We're going to talk about some of the more interesting parts of the depth chart, but we're going to start in a place that no other show in this market is going to start.
You need to answer that?
We're going to start. It says Metric Government of Nashville. That's not good.
Oh, man.
Coming after me. We are going to start someplace that no other show discussing the Tennessee Titans depth chart anywhere in the media, the radio, the television, the digital space, of course, where most of you live. We're going to start with the punter today on the podcast.
Yes.
The punter.
I think that this is
Ryan
just
Stonehouse.
This is a little like, from everything I've heard from you, from people that went to camp that were fans and all this stuff, Ryan Stonehouse is just killing the game in punting.
Footballs.
Yes. They're just murdering footballs. And I think when you look at Brett Kern, I think that if I were betting money, I think he retires here in a few weeks. Wouldn't that save face and give him paid too? Because if not, I think he gets cut and he loses out on $2.2 million, because the Titans would save that much money. If he retires, he stays under contract, right? So he can't go to another team without being traded, but he gets to save face and say, I'm retiring with the team that has taken his chance on me. Obviously, Ryan Stonehouse out here is killing it. It's time for the next generation of the great MVP punter to come out. I'm kind of feeling that I think the only thing that has really prevented Ryan Stonehouse from completely taking over the job and making the leap, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the trust in the team from Fat Randy for him to hold the kick.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say sort of like the I don't know if it would be considered like the nostalgia of Brett Kern as like a player, because there is value there to the community, to the team. And that let's just say hypothetically, you are correct, and that hypothetically folks inside the Titans organizations have been thinking about this. Hypothetically, that would be a really brutal tweet to put out. Like put out a press release and a tweet like, we've cut Brett Kern. That would go over very poorly with the fans, even if it is the right move.
Well, see, that's what I said. And then to Mike Herndon and Justin Mello, we were both kind of all three talking punters at the time. And they kind of made it seem like...
Sounds like a fun Friday night.
They made it seem like that it wouldn't be that bad of a tweet. People would understand because of his years over the last year and a half and how he's played.
Obviously you disagree with them. Right?
I think I do disagree. I think that first off, it's Twitter. Everybody's going to look to be angry about something, instantly. And they love being angry. Titans Twitter loves being angry. So I think they're underestimating the
love of Brett Kern,
acid and love of Brett
Kern.
But it's also the love of just hating on someone else.
No, you're right. The acidity of the sewers.
Yes.
Is bad. We need to work on the
high pH balance.
We need to work on the pH balance of the sewers. You beat me to the pH joke.
Yeah.
Good chemistry knowledge from both of us from high school.
We had a pond.
It is the what's the far right part of the periodic table? The some sort of gases.
The noble gases.
The noble gases. They're all over Twitter. The noble gases. So it's the acidity of the big Twitter sewers. Gases. I'm a big boron guy. What are we talking about? The acidity of the Twitter sewers, and then just the pure love of the player, the personality off the field, like the things that he brings to the team. Just again, in general, he's a great interview.
That's why I think retiring is the choice for everybody, because
I can see it.
It keeps him getting paid. It helps the Titans not putting out a "Hey, we cut Kern" tweet.
Yeah,
and it lets the team hold on to his rights for the full season, so he can't go anywhere. And I think that's
all. Seems good.
Listen, if I was friends with Brett Kern, I don't know, maybe he watches the show. I assume everybody watches the show. So Brett Kern, as a friend, I am telling you, I think it's time for you to retire, because you get to keep all your money and you get to save some face of not being a cap casualty. I don't know if it's a cut casualty, camp casualty, wherever you want to put it.
I think you make a great point, and I think the biggest point we should be making here is that I think there is a large percentage of Titans fans that don't realize this is a very dead even battle for the spot.
What about the holding the field goals? You know, the holder.
I think it has to be a factor. But again, if
If you get rid of Kern, I hate saying get rid of Kern, but if Kern were to leave the team, you would get a lot of reps in with Stonehouse as the holder.
That's true, you would. I've never wanted to ask Mike Grable a question at a press conference, but I might ask him, what have you seen from Ryan Stonehouse's ability to hold field goals?
There you go. But I mean, I think this is a real possibility.
Are you getting what you getting what you want from the Stonehouse holding situation?
I think this is a real possibility. I wouldn't even put out the possibility. Here's what I'll say. I would believe that they would carry 2 kickers or 2 punters before they let Ryan Stonehouse hit the practice squad.
That's probably valid.
And I think that the reason they would keep Brett Kern on is because they don't necessarily need the $2.2 million in cap money.
No.
So that's not a real technical reason, even though that is a valid reason to cut someone. I don't think that's one of the reasons, but the holding of the field goals. I mean, I know you're paying a lot of money for a field goal holder, but I'm just saying, I think there's a real possibility that I think that if I were putting them in here, I think Brett Kern retirement, number 1.
Okay.
Brett Kern's cut, number 2.
Okay.
Carrying 2 punters, number 3, and then putting Ryan Stonehouse on the practice squad.
Okay. Yeah. Michael just said, hey, I just logged on. First of all, join the show. Okay. At 1:00. We start at 1:00. No, thank you for your comment. Or did they cut Kern, or is Zach just against keeping 2 punters or 2 field goal holders? No, he has not been cut. We just are starting the show where no one else is starting, and that is that there's a very real punter battle, and there's a very real chance that Brett Kern is not on the field or on the team, and you have laid out how that could happen while everyone gets to save face and be involved.
If Ryan Stonehouse is booming punts as much as everybody says he is, I don't see why they would let him go to waivers, go to the practice squad.
I get it. I think that's enough punter talk.
Okay.
Where else would you like to go here? Do you want to go slashes? You want to go slashes on the depth chart? You're into the slashes?
The slashes I feel like are new to me.
Overrated guitar player, by the way.
Yes. I don't. Wow. I agree. I don't think, though. I look at it as, they got Caleb Farley / Roger McCreary.
I think that's a good battle.
Is it a battle, or is it just it's Caleb Farley's job? Roger McCreary is probably going to start on Thursday while Caleb Farley doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah. See,
I think it's a very close battle.
It's hard for me to I don't think Aaron Brewer / Jamarco Jones is even worth putting on there. They wasted literal ink and time by putting a slash between there.
I think it's like a key type.
Yeah, but that takes a while.
It does. It takes time. Michael says he just got home from work. It's 8 p.m. here. Love your show from across the pond. Look, we are worldwide now.
We're global.
We are international here on a football show. No, I think I would agree that Farley I think it's closer. How about this? I think it's more realistic to think that Farley and McCreary could still be battling in theory, and that McCreary might start, and that Farley maybe needs to come up to speed with, maybe they're worried about the knee or something. I don't know. To me, it's less likely that Jamarco Jones takes the left guard spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that unless Aaron Brewer goes down with injury, there's no chance that Jamarco Jones. I would put it at 0% chance Jamarco Jones is your left guard unless there's injury. Okay,
that I agree. This is the depth chart Zach's got right here. This little slash down here in the defensive back section, that feels like a real slash. This slash is fraudulent.
So
I feel like that slash is fraudulent.
To me, I don't feel like it's a real slash just because there's no nickel back. Last year, I believe they had the nickelback slot on the depth chart.
Well, even on this, they've got 2 tight ends as a starting formation.
Yeah,
which
I'm not surprised that, when you get into it, I'm not surprised NWI and Robert Woods are your 1 and 2. Yes. I wouldn't be surprised if they take. And first off, for this particular team, being a starter, wide receiver, cornerback doesn't really matter. Doesn't mean anything.
Again, that's why I think this slash is sort of just like hey, they're all going to play, and this slash is is just an actor. It's just trying to fool us into thinking that Jamarco Jones has a chance to play over Aaron Brewer. Now, is there a slash in between, or do you want to save the Nicholas Petit-Frere conversation for later? Or do you want to get into it now?
I do think that there is now, but my opinions have changed, and maybe the opinions of the team have changed, apparently, that there is now a real competition at right tackle, but we'll talk about that later. That's a tease.
So save that slash till later. Go to Weiss Liquors, get yourself some margaritas, and settle in for that slash conversation later on in the pod.
We're talking about how it doesn't really matter. And tight end, Jeff Swaim is the opposite starting tight end. If they come out and run the ball in the first play, guess who's going to be out there?
Jeff Swaim.
These starters right here are going to be out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although Burks could eventually take.
But I'm just talking about week 1, first game. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Because that's really all this is good for, is tell you what's going to happen at week 1.
So wide receivers right now are Nick Westbrook Akine, Traylon Burks, Racey McMath. Then the other wide receiver is Robert Woods, Kyle Phillips, Des Fitzpatrick. Those are the 6. Now, I would say this, and I talked to a lot of people at practice on Monday. Racey McMath had another good practice. Mason Kinsey had a great practice. Des Fitzpatrick has not had as many good practices lately. I feel like Des was in my head at number 4 when we started camp, and he's down to 6. Racey was like 7. Now he's up to 5. Phillips has cemented himself as a top 3 or 4 receiver, probably 3 at this point. Maybe 4 with Westbrook-Akine.
I think it's 4, but I think at the end of the day, those 4 are clearly ahead, and those 4 will probably all have like 40% snaps, right? I mean, like Robert Woods will have the most, but I think like when you look at NWI, Traylon Burks, and Kyle Phillips, they're going to be sharing so many snaps. They'll probably all end up at like 40-something%.
I did sort of a loose, unscientific poll of the media today as to who everyone's 5th and 6th receiver is, and I got this literal response from people if you're watching on YouTube. I don't know. Like from like respected, smart football media people.
I think to me, I think Racey McMath is clearly as well as he's practicing right now, and the fact that he does special teams. I think Racey McMath is clearly your 5th wide receiver. Now, here's how I view it: the top 4 wide receivers. You got Robert Woods, NWI, Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips. Then you have Racey McMath. Then you have Mason Kinsey, Des Fitzpatrick battling out with Terry Godwin, Josh Malone, and Reggie Roberson, and all those guys. I don't think Brendan Lewis is going to make this.
No, he's not
at all.
No, he's not. Now, Kinsey makes, like, he did it again on Monday. Like, he just keeps catching passes and making plays.
He did that last year. He did that in the preseason last year. To me, it's hard to figure out. Mason Kinsey and Kyle Phillips are not battling for a roster spot.
No,
when you look at it, what is this team likely going to keep? A 6-foot-something receiver that is a big body, or are they going to keep a little small guy?
So here's an interesting debate, because here's what I would say. McMath has moved on my original depth chart when we did this podcast.
We didn't even think he was going to make it.
I had McMath at 7 and not on here. I had Malone at number 6 with Des Fitzpatrick at number 5. So what I have done now is McMath, because of a few things, he is a physical person that does things that no one else on this team can do. I don't want to say
starting to make contested catches.
I don't like saying freak because it's
but I mean, he technically is a freak with the way that he does stuff, but he's an athletic freak. He is not a NFL freak athlete.
No.
I think that's a better way to put it.
That's fair, yes. But at his size and his skill set to go down the field, which the only other guy that really can do that is Burks on this team, and with the special teams value, I think I have also moved him up to 5. So to me, it is Mason Kinsey, Des Fitzpatrick, Josh Malone, Terry Godwin, and Reggie Roberson for one spot.
Yeah.
And I would put right now, I would probably put Des Fitzpatrick, Mason Kinsey, and Josh Malone as the 3.
I would say Godwin. I don't
think Godwin makes the team.
You don't think even though he's showing up and doing everything like an NFL receiver?
I think he's a scout team guy.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. Kinsey can return punts. Fitzpatrick can't. Kinsey can back up Phillips. Fitzpatrick can't. So to me, if I'm looking to find a piece that does some other things differently, maybe it's Kinsey. Also, do you feel comfortable about keeping Kinsey on your practice squad? No one's going to sign him. That might be a factor here. Josh Malone is more the guy that sort of can do everything. Roberson is a little bit more one-dimensional. I think it's a really interesting problem to have, but I agree that I've gone McMath from 7 to 5, and now I think it's Kinsey, Fitzpatrick, Malone for that last spot. And I think Fitzpatrick right now, if I had to guess, would get it because he was a 4th-round pick. And
he was on practice squad last year.
And he was on a practice squad.
You can't use the 4th round. You can't use the 4th round.
You're right. Yeah,
but he did win an award. So maybe that helps push him up there.
And he has improved. But Kinsey just makes more plays, like just all the time.
Just real quick, Laurel Murchison, not surprised that he's down this low. And people tried to argue with me in group chats that, Murch is definitely going to make the team. His roster is not in jeopardy. Well, that proves to be grossly underestimating how bad Murch has been. He's only made one play. Chance Campbell's moved up on the depth chart, but that's mainly because of Monty Rice. I think Dr. Gibby, having a nickname is very important. It's like when you get a dog, a stray dog, you're not supposed to name it because you get attached to it, and they've nicknamed him. Do they get attached to the nickname? Who knows? I think someone that can make the roster, and I've talked about it for a few weeks now since he was signed, is Shakur Brown, who keeps just making plays.
He did it again on Monday. He had another couple of really nice plays, and people are like, "Who's 36?" I'm like, "Or no, who's 38?" Right? Shane Carter's 36, and he's like they just keep making plays. And we'll get to Willis here in a second because that's an interesting conversation because he's going against a lot of these guys. The reason I bring that up is that a lot of times when you see Carter or Shakur Brown make a play, a lot of times it's against Woodside and Willis.
When I talked about Shakur Brown, I went back and looked at it because I did a mock draft for the 2021 draft. And I did a mock draft and I picked someone else over Shakur Brown. I can't remember who it was, but I did talk about Shakur Brown being a guy that can make plays at the NFL level because he could just he's a lot like Roger McCreary. He's just going to be where he's supposed to be. And I think with the way that this team has treated Buster Screen, Greg Maben, these guys that, what was his name? The guy from, there's another one everybody fell in love with, a cornerback. I don't know. There's a cornerback that's not on the team anymore. I think he's with the Falcons. But there's another undrafted guy that's making the team. They're not afraid to put undrafted free agents on this team. The guy was from UT Chattanooga, who I'm thinking about.
Now let's be clear. Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, Chris Jackson are your 3 starters. Farley, McCreary, Greg Maben are your other 3 starters. And then it is
7.
And then it is Carter and Brown and as like the next 2. So if you're going to go 7 and 8 right now, it's Carter and Brown battling with Chris Jackson and Greg Maben. I think Chris Jackson makes the team. So to me, it's Maben, Carter, and Brown for 1 spot. In theory, if you're going to keep 6, if you want to keep 7,
I think they may end up keeping 7. Just how much they play diamond with Elijah Molden
and 3 quarterbacks and 2 punters. Something's got to give.
I don't know about the 2 punters. 2 punters was number 3 on most likely to happen.
5 running backs.
I mean, no, I think Trenton Cannon's going down.
No Jordan Wilkins.
No, right. Jordan Wilkins is just a guy. I'm not falling in love with Jordan Wilkins just because he's getting reps because Derrick Henry's out. I'm not falling in love with
first team reps in the 2-minute drill.
I'm not worried that Hassan Haskins is down here at the bottom because guess what? He's a rookie. They typically would put rookies down here at the very last. We talked about that last year when the depth chart came out. And I think that Trenton Cannon, if Dontrell Hilliard is going to be the kickoff returner and he can do just as much as what Trenton Cannon does, they're going to get rid of Trenton Cannon.
I like Dontrell Hilliard ahead of Trenton Cannon. I'm saying
and there's no point in keeping
Wilkins is getting more run than Cannon is, and that's what's been weird. That's what's been strange to me.
I think that's probably because Hilliard was wearing the yellow jersey today, so I think he got a little bit more action than what you would see.
No, this was on Thursday. He was running with the first team in 2-minute drill.
Yeah, but didn't he fumble or something?
Yeah, I think he did. So
he's a loser.
He's played in the NFL a little bit longer than some of the other guys. So
but he's not good.
All right, not good.
When you're not good, you're not good.
That's the analysis you need. Kevin Strong is on here as backup to Jeffrey Simmons. That's more of a 6th defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Where we know Naquan Jones, DeMarcus Walker, Autry, Tartan, Simmons are your first 5. It feels
they're
like
the only 5 they're going to make.
Which means Walker's pretty clearly above that cut line, and those are your 5. And the next group would be Kevin Strong, Jordan Peavy, Murchison, all fighting for probably, if anything.
Deshaun Hand's listed higher than Murchison, so don't forget him.
No, I like I've told you since the beginning of all these guys to make a 6th defensive lineman. If they do it, I like Peavy the most of all of them. But it looks like right now that none of them are scheduled to be there. Again, Cole and Campbell, you mentioned those guys. Dennehy behind Landry, and we're going to go through the defense here in a minute, so we don't need to spend too much time on this. I think we can get into. Let's go to Petit Frere, and do you want to do that, or do you want to go into Malik Willis?
So we can go into NPF here.
Okay, so it's very clearly a job. It's
a competition.
It's clearly a competition. He's out there working with the ones just as much as Radens is the last couple of days. Physically, here's what's cool about this for Titans fans, in my opinion, and then I'll let you go here. They both are physically very capable and look the part at right tackle. They are both physically good enough to do the things that position requires. Neither of them really could. Now, in theory, could you play Radens at guard? Maybe, but I don't think that's the point. The point is that they are both tackles.
I feel like if they were really pushing him at left guard, he would get more reps at left guard, and everybody would be talking about it.
Now, if you wanted to put the best, most physically gifted players on the line, you could go Radens left guard, MPF at right tackle. That's not where they're at right now with the development of these players. So the point is Radens, they came into camp, a lot of praise for Radens, offseason award for Radens, physically look different, ready to go, getting first-team reps. And as the camp has gone along, MPF has gotten more and more reps with the starting unit, and now they're sort of rotating guys in to try to feel out who's the better fit.
Well, MPF was a 4-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken.
I know he's the number 1 offensive tackle in America.
Yeah.
5-star, number 1 player.
5-star. So
number 1 player in the country.
You're talking about a guy with a good pedigree, right?
Yep.
And he's coming in, and he's obviously a competitive guy, a very smart guy. And so you're seeing that, okay, they drafted him in the 3rd round, but you're seeing him push a guy right now, which is a really good scenario, sort of.
I think it is.
I think, if NPF is the question on here, if NPF wins the right tackle job, ... If NPF wins the right tackle job, that means that they really missed out on Dylan Radins to a point, because that's pretty bad to lose to a guy that many deemed was really, really raw. Now, obviously, you take the raw talent and you change, but what does that mean for the future of Dylan Radins? And I go to trade deadlines.
I'm not going there yet with my head. My head is, this line has battled so many injuries. And here's another thing. Ben Jones stepped out of practice. He was fine, not injured. He stepped out of practice kind of early. The old man rules, the old man treatment. He left practice early, and they started moving guys around. And so I think what you have to be careful of is, especially going to trade deadline, which is, we know Taylor Lewan has dealt with injuries. Ben Jones has dealt with injuries. We know Aaron Brewer may have some situational struggles with certain types of off defensive linemen or whatever. I think they want as like the most versatile and deepest collection of players they can get. And having, to me, it's nothing but gravy that the fact that this really raw, very talented third round pick as a rookie is pushing for playing time. Like, to me, that is a good thing. Yes,
let's say this: they're pushing for playing time because both are playing really well.
Yes, it's not because Radin sucks.
Yeah, it's not because Radin sucks. So that's another thing, is that it's a good problem to have, like you're saying, because if NPF comes in and wins the job, that means he's just that good.
Yeah, it speaks.
And he's undeniable. He's an undeniable force.
It speaks more to his ability than Radin's struggles.
Yes.
It's not a Radin struggling thing. He's just,
because Vrabel even talked about how today Radins is doing well at the top of his pass protection, which is really good considering that the team needed pass protection like crazy last year, and the guy that he's replacing, or NPF is replacing, sucked at pass protection. Yeah. So I think it's a good problem to have. I just feel like it just clouds a little bit more around this 2020 draft class of John Robinson.
Doesn't that speak to the Fitzpatrick thing though, where you're kind of like, I don't care anymore that I just mean, like, I don't care anymore where he was drafted. Are you a contributor or not? And I still think Radins is one of your top 6 offensive linemen.
Yeah. So
like, if you have a depth chart of 8 guys, or you're keeping, or 9 or 10 with your practice squad, where's Radins ranked? Well, he still ranks ahead of a lot of other people in my mind. He might be the 5th most talented offensive lineman ahead of Brewer. So to me, having that extra piece, like, I don't care anymore that it was a 2nd and 3rd round pick. Like, to me, if anything, that says that they both have enough ability
to be NFL
starters. And that's a good problem to have, especially when you have an aging center and a left tackle who's dealt with injuries. And, like, there's just, you got an undersized left guard. There could be things that need to be moved around, and to have extra pieces and versatility. I think we've seen it on this team the last 2 years. You need versatility along the offensive line, just like you need it in the secondary and in the receiving
corps. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they go up against the Ravens in preseason, because obviously very good defense that the Ravens have built. That means that their depth pieces are really, really good. So are we going to see NPF suddenly struggle like Radins did last year because, some guys rushing the passer?
Is that outside of Willis, which is going to get all the headlines, is because there's no reason to keep Radins or NPF off the field, right? You're not resting them against the Ravens. I think I could argue that is the most important thing to watch on the team against the Ravens, depending on how many reps they get.
I would say that, and what the wide receivers that we talked about earlier do that are fighting for that 6th spot. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay.
I agree.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see here. You want to talk Willis?
Yes.
Let's talk Willis.
Stacking some days.
So a couple good days in a row for him. Monday, he was more decisive. And when he throws it and plants and his feet are right, as we've said a million times, it gets there. Couple of throws he made, and one was what I thought showed progress. And let me sort of talk through it with you and see what you think.
Yeah.
So he goes through his first read, and this was in a 2-minute drill. So he goes through his first read, doesn't have it, pats the football, and at that moment, that is when I have seen him throughout camp struggled with the next thing to do. Right. So he goes through the first read, it's not there. Now what do? Pat the ball, panic, turn, scramble out when I'm not supposed to. Instead, he finds his first read, doesn't have it, pats the ball, goes to the second read, and fires it and completes it for like an 8-yard pass. And people were kind of like, oh, that he's got to get rid of that pat. And I kind of was like, but wait a second. He threw in rhythm on the second progression. And that to me is a sign of progress, because he wasn't doing that even just on Thursday last week.
Explain to me how Malik Willis's pat is a problem versus Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and all these other guys.
It's not a pat unless it's like, it's not a problem.
Is it a second that he's trying to do? I mean, like, is he losing a second, or is he losing valuable time?
Yes, it is.
Or is he telegraphing something?
I don't think it's telegraphing. To me, it's not having spoken to him about this,
I'm surprised that nobody's asked
Right.
him about the Pat, because that's all anybody wants to talk about. But everybody's, I guess, too scared when they have him in front of a microphone to ask. Cowards.
well, you can say that to me. But
I'll it to everybody. You're here. You're next to it.
I'll ask him. It's fine. To me, I'm not sure what to do. Like, it's, where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? I'm panicking. To me, it's a sign of like stress.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
But why was it not for Peyton Manning? Is it just because it was Peyton Manning?
Well, I guess, like, because I think right now, in his very first camp, having never played a game, it is clear, like, getting to the progression and pulling the trigger on the second.
You think it's a nervous tick more so than just a habit?
And I think it's a growth process with learning how to go through reads and progressions, where I think he struggled early in camp. And even on Thursday in the 2-minute drill, I did not think he was particularly good in going through his reads. He would sort of slow down and panic and then hold the ball.
Let's go back to that Thursday, because he only had really one okay series in the 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s. He only had one okay good series.
One
the
really
2-minute drills. And because that was 2-minute drill day. But the rest of them were terrible. And then you come in on Friday, and it seems like he cleaned up a lot of stuff, and he had maybe 2 or 3 good drills, his best day at camp on Friday.
Yep.
Then Sunday was good. Sunday was probably his best camp since Friday.
Yep.
And then today, another good camp.
I would say, and today made a couple, like even today, for example, he got pressure, first read, knew he had, I think it was Treylon Burks in one-on-one coverage on the outside on like sort of a fade route. And he did it as I've got to get rid of the ball. I'm in a pressure situation. I can't hold the football any longer. And he gets rid of it deep down the sideline. It was actually a great throw. Burks makes a great catch, but only gets one foot down because the defensive back made a great play. And it's one of those where I'm standing there with like 4 dudes and we all just go, what a throw, what a catch, what a defensive play, incomplete pass. But it goes as like a positive play for everybody, because what he did was he felt the pressure, knew the route to go to in that situation, and chucked it up, and it was a good throw. So what you're starting to see is the comfort with the progressions and the reads and that kind of stuff, because when he is comfortable and believes in what he sees, the ball gets there really fast. There's no question about that. And like when he wants to set and throw, it gets there real quick, and real quick even. And so it's just growing. It's growing. I think people are going to go nuts on Thursday night because he's going to make some bad plays, and people are going to, lose their minds over a couple of bad plays. But he's going to have like 2 passes knocked down, 3 sacks, and then like 3 really great plays and like 1 amazing run.
Yeah.
And we're all going to go, it's a
I noticed they brought him in on a read option with Woodside's 11-on-11, which I thought was interesting today.
That is an interesting. So, and I've asked a few people about this, and I don't know. No one has an answer. And that is he active? They're going to carry 3. Is he good enough in some packages, some specific packages? Is he good enough to be active? Which I guess is 46 man instead of 53, right? On Sundays. And that is a question nobody has an answer for yet. Normally, you would not have a third quarterback active.
Yeah, I think that would be real hard. You'd have to get rid of probably a running back that you have on the list.
I don't. But again,
maybe a wide receiver. If you carry 7 wide receivers, you switch them out. I think it's going to be a team by team, whoever you're facing against.
The question is he good enough to trust with the ball in his hands in games?
I guess that's what we'll see these next 3 weeks.
What we're going to find out.
I mean, you're talking about. I mean, we'll maybe talk about it a little on Friday, but I don't expect Logan Woodside to play a full half. I want
to see Willis as much as possible.
Yeah, I think they want to see Willis as much as possible. And I think you as fans, obviously outside of the excitement factor, should want to see Willis as much as possible, because he needs the reps. It's what everybody's talked about.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
And I've been very encouraged. We preach on the show to not worry about what you hear on Willis in the negative light. It's bound to happen. He's going through the growing pains. We tell you the problems, the issues that he's had rolling out to the left. In fact, I can't remember if it's Saturday or Friday, but he went out to the left and apparently made a connected on a pass. I don't know if it was a rollout, but he did throw to his left, which has been, regardless of rolling out or not, has been a pretty big hindrance for him, because it's a wider field, right?
Yep.
I mean, when you talk about a wider field, there's different geometry and speed and arm angles that you have to take as a rookie.
Yep.
And being that he comes from an offense that didn't use all that, then you run into this kind of stuff. But I think it's very encouraging. I think I think that he's going to overtake Logan Woodside as quarterback 2 in a month? I doubt
Yeah,
it, but it's not really that high of a bar to do.
How
You
about
just
this?
have to get command of the offense. Logan Woodside obviously has command of the offense, regardless whether he's hitting Jeff Swaim for 3 passes in a row for some odd fucking reason.
Yeah.
But Traylon Burks, Chico Conquo, and Robert Woods are all on the field.
Well, there's a moment like almost on every possession with Logan Woodside where you're like, great read, great decision, perfectly in rhythm, 2.5 yards over his head or wide, and you're just going like, that's the Logan Woodside novel. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good asset to have because he's in the right situation and makes the right decision all the time. And then, but what I'm seeing is, let's say this: if because Willis ran the 2-minute today, and I thought he was significantly better than he was on Thursday. Does that mean anything? No, but let's just say that it does for a second. If his growth from Thursday to Monday is the same pace of growth that we see over the next 3 weeks, he will gain ground on Logan Woodside quickly.
Yeah.
Does that mean he's prepared to go in and win a game behind Tannehill if he gets hurt? Probably not. But is he going to gain enough ground to make it a tougher decision?
Is he going to gain enough ground to show that first off they made the right choice out of all the quarterbacks to take, and they feel comfortable about next year? Because that's what this whole year for Malik Willis is. How much growth and confidence? How much growth can you show to give the team confidence?
Absolutely. And I think so far, again, as we've said on this show, while being critical of passing and decision and footwork and all these other things that we're supposed to do, it's still the attitude and the skills have always been there from the beginning. And as long as he's got those two things, he can get better. And he is showing us that he can get better. Let's see what it looks like on Thursday night.
He has shown us he can get better. He has shown the staff he can get better, because that's all they talk about is that he sheds his mistakes. I thought that was a really good thing to hear. Was that
line, by the way?
Yeah,
some like Nick Saban leadership stuff right there.
Like he just basically, the mistakes roll off of him, and he doesn't hold on to them, and he goes out there and tries to fix them as quickly as possible. And I think that's what you want to hear from a young quarterback, and not that he shrinks in the spotlight like Des Fitzpatrick.
You think he still does? You still picking on him now, or is it from last year?
I saw a report that he slouched.
All right, let's go position by position. One thing you're excited about, one thing you're concerned about. Defensive line, Zachary Lyons.
I am excited for the next evolution of Jeffrey Simmons. We talk about the next evolution of studio space. That's the next evolution of Jeffrey Simmons. I think that Jeffrey Simmons is going to make the case, and I think you said the same thing a couple weeks ago, that he may be the best defensive player not named Aaron Donald.
I think he's the second best defensive lineman on the planet.
Yeah, and now, but he can make the push for the second best defensive player in the NFL,
including like linebackers, safeties, corners. Okay,
I think that he's going to become a household name, and I'm excited to see that next step. And we have lost
our camera.
We've
lost our camera here. All right, we'll just keep talking about our position groups here, and maybe some of the production staff, the crack production staff, can come fix our camera here on the webcam. So I'll give you what I'm excited about with the defensive line, and that is the depth and the talent with the defensive line, not just behind Jeffrey Simmons, but also with T.R. Tart's development, with Denico Autry being as good as he is, with development from some other pieces on this group. I don't think that's merch, but I really like Jaden Peavy potentially to push for a roster spot on the back end. I really love the depth and versatility of this defensive line. And if you are including somewhat potentially the outside linebackers, because Rashad Weaver is a little bit more of a defensive lineman, even if you put all those pieces together, you've got an incredibly versatile, incredibly talented, very deep group of defensive linemen that can kind of play all over. You can slide Autry out on passing downs. You can move him inside on running downs. Same thing with Peavy. Same thing with DeMarcus Walker has been an extremely talented player for this team that clearly they love. So there's a whole lot going on with this defensive line that I think is very good and versatile. Now, the only concern I have with this group would be Jeffrey Simmons is so good and so talented and so studly, Zach, that there's nobody that does like they don't have the. I love the depth and the versatility. I don't think they have the elite upside outside of Simmons and Autry, and that's the only question really when it comes down to it. So again, we apologize for technical difficulties in terms of the visual element. We are going to continue rolling
still
here.
Hear our lovely voices, so it really doesn't matter.
We're going to continue rolling here until otherwise. So concern for you. I did my positive and negative. You do your concern.
I think my concern is, what is this defensive line without Jeffrey Simmons?
That's what I.
That's exactly what you were saying. So because I love the depth. I love that your starting 5 are all guys that can contribute. But if Simmons is gone, obviously you could probably still roll with Danico Autry, and there we are. And
Weiss Licker's got a lot of love during that second. That's the only thing that stayed up there.
It's the only thing they could see.
Right
Danico Autry and Tier Tart are obviously would be your starting 2 tier, and they would probably shift to more outside linebackers, more defensive backs. But Jeffrey Simmons is, I think, the guy that you got to be a little concerned about as far as what is this defense without him? What is this defensive line without him?
He's the linchpin. Like, to me,
he's the Jenga piece.
They can win a Super Bowl with a questionable Ryan Tannehill. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl without Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, all right. Inside linebacker, inside linebacker next. I think you said at the very beginning when we did the depth chart that this is not a position you're concerned about. You think it's high quality, and while I love David Long and I love Zach Cunningham, like, I am worried about the depth on this position because they're
starting to take hits.
Right. And Monty Rice hasn't been out there yet. Campbell and Cole are okay. I just think that you're relying on David Long and Zach Cunningham to be healthy 17 games and Monty Rice to be healthy 17 games for this group to be itself. And I don't know, like, I think the drop off to Rice is steep, and then I think the drop off after Rice is even steeper.
Yeah, I would go to the fact that I think the depth has taken obviously a big hit, because that's my concern as well. Is obviously we've seen it for multiple years now that this inside linebacker position has been a black hole for injuries. Like, it's just injuries just happen to these guys. David Long can stay healthy. I mean,
if you're undersized and you play a tough situation, it's a tough position.
Yeah. So it's rough to see that Monty Rice still hasn't been able to come back. He's listed as still injured on the depth chart. Chance Campbell's up there. Now, Chance Campbell's making plays, but it is a 6th round Chance Campbell. But if any team can make Chance Campbell into something,
David Long's a 5th round pick, right?
Yeah, it's this team. So it's like it's hard for me to not necessarily diss Chance Campbell. Like, I don't think you're dissing Chance Campbell.
I'm not dissing him at all. No,
I don't.
That's not a word that kids use. I don't think anymore either.
Well, they should bring it back. I'm bringing it back. I think when you look at Dylan Cole and Chance Campbell, I look at it at the sense that they can get you by for a couple of games. Are they your season-long answers? I think Chance Campbell could turn into a season-long answer for this team just because of how this team develops their linebackers fairly quickly.
Are they better?
The only linebacker they couldn't develop was Rashaan Evans, and he's just an idiot.
Well, he also started higher up too than all these guys. Are they better than Will Compton?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not even close.
It's mean-spirited by me. I'm sorry.
Not even close.
All right. One thing you're excited about.
I'm just excited about the linebackers in general. Linebacker, for me, I don't know why it's been this way, but maybe Keith Bullock is a big thing. I've always enjoyed watching linebackers play. I've always appreciated the linebacker position. I think it's the quarterback of the defense in most cases. Yep. It's a cerebral position. That's why Rashaan Evans struggled so much. But I really just like it. I like David Long's leadership, the excitement. My excitement stems towards David Long. I like the leadership that he's going to show. I think that's much needed. I think that will help the linebackers immensely. And I think that when you really look at it, these are all kind of exciting guys. Monty Rice is an excitingly athletic guy, right? Chance Campbell, maybe isn't this household name, but this is a guy that tackles. Like, you can count on him to tackle, and that's what you need.
They draft good tacklers. Yeah. Almost all the players they draft are good tacklers.
And Dylan Cole is still Dylan Cole. I mean, he's not an exciting name, but he's an Auburn prospect, or he's from Auburn as well. Another SEC, linebacker. You got 3 SEC but 4 SEC linebackers. And
West Virginia basically is an SEC school.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm excited about. And I may be alone on this. I may be alone on Zach Cunningham Island. But and maybe I'm biased towards the past, and that's my fault, and I'm guilty of this because I thought he was he's one of, if not my favorite Vanderbilt Commodore of all time. He was maybe the only Houston Texan that I thoroughly loved watching play. I just think if he is back to himself, he can be an exceptional player. So I'm excited about his potential return to himself. If that doesn't happen, I'll put my hand up and I'll be wrong and I'll be accounted for, and I'll say, hey guys, I'm sorry I was alone on Zach Cunningham Island. The only thing
he has to improve is his predilection to actually bite on play action.
And maybe they put him in the situation to be again, because he can pressure up the middle, he can pressure off the edge, like they can use him in blitz packages. Like, don't put him in the situation. Let David Long be the guy that has to make that decision.
Yeah,
maybe they can figure that out. But I just have always loved his game. And again, maybe I'm being too nostalgic here and guilty and whatever. But I just am excited about what Zach Cunningham could be with a full year in the offseason and in the
Titans defense and the fans should be super excited about a full season of Zach Cunningham and David Long together.
Okay, so I'm not alone on the island.
No. I love Zach Cunningham. I do not like him in passing situations.
That's fair enough. Go Molden and Hooker up into the box, pull Cunningham off the field.
I think that most people like Zach Cunningham. Maybe they don't like the price tag. Maybe that's what you're sensing, but who gives a shit about someone else's money?
It's not our money.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from this way. Zach Cunningham and David Long, this defense really kicked into overdrive when Zach Cunningham was picked up. They were clearly better than Jayon Brown or Rashawn Evans and David Long. Does not matter.
Okay.
They were clearly better, so now you're going to have ostensibly a full season of these two guys.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's roll.
All right.
I love it.
Edge players. Here's I have no concerns about this other than depth, which is a cop-out answer in football.
I like the depth.
I don't think you've got, well, it's more like just like there's 4.
Yeah.
One of them hasn't played really a full season of football in Reaver, but I love his skills. Like, there is nothing. I don't question Dupree in anything. I don't question Landry in anything. I think Weaver's going to be a heck of a player. I think Adene's a perfect number 4. It's more about like what happens if you need a 5th one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I think
Danico
Autry, DeMarcus Walker are both your 5th one.
That's probably that's fair.
I mean, that's your 5th and 6th edge players because they both have played that edge spot. So to me, that's kind of how I view it. I'm excited for a healthy season of Bud Dupree. I don't know how anybody can not be excited to see this.
That's good.
They were clearly better. Clearly. Harold Landry was clearly better when Bud Dupree was on the field. And that's because he demands attention no matter what people want to say and try to discount what he does just because he doesn't stack up the sexy box score numbers and his limited playing time last year. It was just clearly better. There's a distinct correlation dating back to the Pittsburgh Steelers days that they were clearly better. It's just math. It's science. It's a scientific fact that this team and any team that Bud Dupree is on since about 2017, I think is when this started happening, this phenomenon, the Bud Dupree effect, started happening.
Force multiplier.
He's a force multiplier.
So I talked to somebody, I don't know, this a couple days ago, and they were kind of raving about Dupree. And I was like, yeah, the physical traits are just extraordinary, and he doesn't get talked about enough. And this guy says, he's got way better physical traits than TJ Watt. It's not even close. He goes, this is a person who was close to Pittsburgh for a while. And he said, it's not even close. Like, TJ does things differently because he works differently than everybody else. Like, he's one of those like Jerry Rice, Michael Jordan, Nick Saban type of people that just works harder than everybody else. But he goes, if you stack him up against Dupree, Dupree's the better football player, like the more athletic guy. And I think that gets lost in all of this, is just, especially when you're out there standing next to him. Like, he is just the most physically gifted. Like, him and Jeffrey Simmons are the 2 most physically gifted humans on the defense. And
I believe it.
And I'm not sure it's close. Like Farley could be close to that group out of the physical like size and skills. But Dupree is I mean, I'm with you. Like, same thing with Lawan. Like, coming off the knee, they weren't there at the beginning of last season, and they could be this year, should be this year, look like they are this year. You know, let's see what they do.
It matters for Harold Landry's success to have someone like Bud Dupree across the way from him. It just matters. And I think that when you're talking about building upon the success of last year, having a healthy Dupree is the main component in my mind of getting to that next defensive level. This is obviously, on paper, I think everybody agrees, the best defense Mike Vrabel has ever had, dating back to his Houston days, even when he had J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney on those teams. This is the best all-around defense that he has ever had, and I think it's going to show this year.
I agree. Defensive backs. Let's go to the defensive backs. Let's do corners first, of course. And the only concern, I'm not going to say that is exactly what I was going to say. I don't have any. I'm excited about all of it.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the versatility. We've raved about it on this show. The only concern is that we are like with Chris Farley, Roger McCreary.
Chris Farley, he's a new cornerback.
Caleb Farley has never played a full season in the NFL. Roger McCreary's never played a game in the NFL. And so it's all just about how much we're depending on a bunch of youth. Christian Fulton's only played 1 season in the NFL. Theo Jackson, we're not to the safeties yet, but same kind of thing.
Well, Shakur Brown. You're
Shakur
talking
Brown,
about
like, yeah,
him.
like this. It's
I
just a
mean,
very young group, and I think they're very, very
I
talented
think
and
Chris
versatile.
Jackson has the most NFL experience, right?
Yeah,
I mean, doesn't he?
Was he a 6th-round pick like 4 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
So in 2020, so he has the most playing experience. Chris Jackson and Greg Maben, I think, has the most years racked up in the NFL, but most of those are spent on practice squad.
Yep.
But when you're talking about NFL game experience, Chris Jackson leads the way, and here he is on the depth chart at probably the 4th or 5th, cornerback.
Listen, there's a lot of Chris's. Okay.
Yeah, Chris Farley.
All right. It's okay to screw it up every now and then.
I look at it, and I think that youth is the concern. I think the concern is, I think there should be concern about Roger McCreary. Does it translate against other teams and other offenses that run something maybe a little bit more dynamic when it comes to the offense? I think you should be worried about Caleb Farley because of his youth, but also his injury history. There's a lot into it, but it all plays down to the youth. We don't really have
inexperience.
It's inexperience. Yeah. We don't really know what these guys are on a consistent week-to-week basis. Besides, we know what Christian Fulton is, we know what Elijah Molden is, and we know who Chris Jackson is. Like, I'm confident that I know Greg Maben can do 2 games max, but like I know who those 3 guys are and what they can give the team. It's the other 3 guys. It's Roger McCreary. It's Caleb Farley.
Yep.
Those guys, what do they give you?
No, there's no question about that. All right, safety. You want to go safety? Because I'm excited about the versatility at corner. I think we're there. I think, again, positives here for me. You have a clear-cut, maybe the best safety tandem in the NFL from a starting standpoint. So there's clear excitement there. AJ Moore and Theo Jackson, a lot of questions, inexperience with Theo. You're asking a lot of him. There's just a little bit of to me, it's depth and inexperience would be the 2 things I'm concerned about. But again, I'm excited about how versatile the entire secondary is, and I think I've said that now on every show we've done for the last 6 weeks.
Well, I think one thing that we haven't got to talk about yet that I really want to be hitting on, and something that I'm excited about.
While Google searching, while talking about this is impressive.
Is Kevin Byard and the leadership. I mean, he has gone. I think he's always been a leader, but he has gone to me to a whole nother level of leadership this offseason. I think that he has gone to a place that is going to be.
I mean, his numbers were back to Kevin Byard-ish last year.
I think you could be looking at the verge of his best season.
He's had some huge years too. Statistically, I think there's going to be more that you don't see in the box score from Kevin Byard.
I think you're talking about a 3-time All-Pro when it's all said.
All right.
He was first team in 2017. He was first team in 2021. I think you're going to see another first team All-Pro, and I think you're going to see Amani Hooker with them.
I agree.
And
something about Amani Hooker being All-Pro.
I'm telling you, I think it's gonna.
Is he considered a top 10 safety? Yes.
Yeah, I'm predicting this is going to be the year that Amani. But here's what I want to say about Kevin Byard and his leadership is the fact that he's out there coaching constantly. You hear a lot about what he's doing, but you also hear about it from him. I just think it's one of those things, those intangibles that will translate to the on-field success, that he's more comfortable in who he is more than he's ever been. Because in 2020, during that really bad defensive performance, he was just unsure of everything around him. Then last year, it was, okay, I know who to report to, right? That's what he talked about. I know to report to Shane Bowen. I know to report, who's to report to on the defense. There's a lot more communication. Now, this year, it seems like he's the one being reported to by the players. And I think that's super important when you're talking about a 2-time All-Pro, by the way. You got a safety here that's building a Hall of Fame resume before your eyes, and I think it's kind of not being talked about a lot.
I think I could probably be on board with just sort of like...
He's in the midst of it.
Yeah, but I think to your broader point, which is we just take him for granted.
Yeah.
And I think the national media takes him for granted. I think even people here, everybody in Nashville takes him for... I think we just sort of assume we've got that guy at the back end that's going to take care of everything. Yeah. And I think to your point, I think he's evolving outside of just this really good safety role into like this whole other piece. And I think you see it after practice a lot. He's still talking to people, and he's willing to talk to every person in the media. He's going to talk to all the other players. He's going to talk to other people's families and kids. Like, he's just sort of like, he's become the ambassador of the team and the defense to some degree. While Lawan is sort of the voice.
Yeah,
I think the guy you send to the UN is Kevin Byard, for lack of a better analogy. And I agree with you. I think that's not talked about enough locally or nationally, that this is a guy who, and this might be our good transition here. I don't know if you've got any other topics here, but this might be a good transition because I'm keeping Kevin Byard in my fantasy league because I refuse to let him hit the draft.
Listen, if we do we've been toying with the idea.
Do a fantasy league.
We are not doing individual defensive players.
All right, Hank, we're gonna have a quick debate here. So let me say,
I will not play.
Let me
There's
say
nothing you can say. I will not play if we do individual.
Why do you hate defensive players?
That's too much drafting. There's too much going on. No.
Well, but let me. Can I make the case for you before you say no?
I mean, you can try.
Because the beauty of
made up my mind.
the beauty of the IDP is that it's mindless. You don't have to prepare for it. You just go to the waiver wire and grab the best one available during the bye week, and you cut the guy who's your starter, and you're
that's
still
almost
okay.
Any player.
But I mean, like, there's certain players on your team you're never going to cut.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a bye, you got to find a replacement. You're going to have to play a backup or something. You know what I mean? Like, your third receiver's out.
About like a 32-round draft. Like, give me a
No. I'm not at all. Well, there's compromise here. You know, this is work-life balance. Here's what I want to say. Do you have a problem with me? Here's what I'm going to say. If Donovan, Stoney, and Donnie are watching right now, this very second, if you are watching or listening to us right now, you three will have a spot in our draft. Are you okay with that? Do you have okay with me making that?
Yeah, I think so.
Making that proclamation. You three have been listening and watching to these shows for a long time. You're loyal listeners. We appreciate you. So we're going to reward you three if you can respond immediately on Twitter at FWordsPod, at Braden Gall, or in the comment section that you are currently watching or listening. And we're gonna find out. But you three will be grandfathered in. Okay. We will then come up with another way to encourage people to make the case as to why they should be in the Football Show Fantasy Football League. It's called football in the title there. Do you have a problem with that?
No. We'll call it a fantasy football show.
Fantasy Football Show League.
Okay.
Something. We'll do it. And we can come up with a equitable fantasy format. I'm not forcing anything on anybody. But I do think having a couple IDPs is fun. It's just you throw a little extra. It's not a lot of points. It's not a lot of preparation.
Then why even have them? If they're so worthless and meaningless, why even have them? Because that's what you're just telling me is that they are worthless and meaningless. They don't even score that many points.
You think
they're easily replaceable? That's what you just said
in fantasy. But you say Bud Dupree and Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Byard are the most important players on the team, and then we're just not going to acknowledge that they're people too?
Well, no, not in fantasy world. This is a fantasy league. This is not real life.
All right, here's what we're going to do. On Thursday, we will give out the information to join the league. How about that?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yes.
So now everybody's prepared. Thursday, we're going to do the Fantasy Football League. We apologize about the technical difficulties. Go to Weiss Liquors, of course. Search Uber Eats. Weiss Liquors. Get liquor delivered right to your house in less than 20 minutes. The Kingston Group, buildkg.com is the website. If you have any problems or questions or thoughts about what you should do with your home, custom build, renovation, whatever, buildkg.com, the Kingston Group, are two wonderful and amazing sponsors on this show. Weiss Liquors, Kingston Group, FWordsPod, Zach Lyons, all over the internet. You can follow them. You can track them and respond and tweet them that IDPs are players too. They're humans too. It's okay. And of course, we are live from the Cast Collective studio here. If you want to book a private event, come check them out, thecastcollective.com. Turn on the notifications. We'll be back on Thursday to preview the Ravens game and talk some fantasy football as well. He is Zach. I am Braden. Thanks for hanging out. This has been a football show.